guys, welcome to another Writing Tip Tuesday. How did a week go by so fast? Is anybody else feeling that, or is it just me? I've got some notes today. I'm going to make it super quick, as I always like to do, 2 to 3 minutes maximum. And what we're going to talk about today is how to improve your story. So I'm not going to go too in depth, but I am going to invite you to listen to the Go Book Yourself podcast, where you can find more information on these writing tips. The first one we'll talk about today is setting the scene. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up and I had these creative writing teachers and they would say, set the scene, and I would think, I don't know what you mean. So I want to explain it to you. When we talk about setting the scene, an analogy I like to use is picture yourself sitting around a campfire. You're relaxed. You're leaning into the moment. You don't have anywhere else to go. You're talking to people and engaging them with your story. You're bringing them into the story. You're describing it using the senses. You're using body language, facial expressions. You're explaining the relationship of the people that are there in the scene together. So set the scene, that's the first thing. Next, dialogue, and I talk about this a lot. Use dialogue sparingly and familiarly. So I don't say to my husband, hey, Deacon, will you please grab me that plate in the cupboard? I say, hey, honey, will you grab me that plate in the cupboard, please? And that's what we mean by that. We also use dialogue for reasons. So I'm never going to divulge the entire plot point of a story through dialogue. I'm always going to dramatize the content or use other storytelling enhancements to move the story forward. Next are your thoughts, and that is exactly what it sounds like. Let people know what you're thinking. It's a nice juxtaposition because you might be doing an action over here, but your thoughts are actually the opposite, and this is why we like to give the reader a little sneak peeky into our minds and let them see, or into a character's minds and let them see this is what's really going on. And people attach to that a little bit more. They feel like, oh, hey, this is your confessional and I'm accepting it and I feel closer to you. Diagramming your story is another thing that you can do. I like to use the example of Cinderella. When I took my intermediate fiction class, this is exactly what we did. We've got the protagonist pitted against the antagonist. So the protagonist does something, antagonist blocks it. The protagonist does something, and antagonist blocks it. Maybe she does something else that affects the protagonist, but the point is that each of these characters are working in conjunction with each other, and that creates this dynamic of them not really working separately, but they're working together and playing off of each other, which is a very successful way to format things, which is why you'll see it in fairy tales and some of the other elemental stories of our time. I better pick up the pace here. Dimension is another one. Don't make your characters flat. Believability. Give your characters reasonable tools to resolve issues, make their personalities believable. So not everybody is all evil all the time. Not everybody is all good all the time. There's nuances, there's facets of people's personalities. So make sure you apply those. Torture your characters. Maybe you've heard this before, but I absolutely love it. Make it very inconvenient for them. Make it inconvenient for you as you're telling your story and you're saying, wow, this was a really amazing moment in my life, and then I was hit by this. We're going to enhance that. We're going to crank up the torture factor on that. Why? Because it makes it more compelling. Don't betray your reader. So don't give them a super easy, non-believable solution. And also don't kill your little darlings if they're main characters or things of that nature, unless you, and there are some exceptions, but by and large, for example, I wrote a story. It was about a serial killer's wife. I was going to turn her evil in the end. My editor said, no bueno, we're not doing that. Okay. Follow the format. So there are successful formats that can be used in these storytelling genres, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Make sure you follow the format. I will tell you more about that on the podcast. Use juxtaposition, hard, soft, cold, hot. Why? Because it's more memorable that way. When we push against these opposing elements, people remember it. Let the story write itself. Yes, you're going to have a loose outline, but if you have something that occurs to you and you say, wow, I really want to go with that, make sure that you honor that too. That's your little reader's psyche speaking up and saying, I want to have this in the story. That's great. If it makes sense, perfect. Also, honor that as you're writing. That's critically important. Apply the relevant feedback from people who are giving it to you. That's another point. Make sure it's relevant. So if somebody says, I hate it, I don't like the color green, I hate the name Samantha, whatever it is, that's not relevant. What's relevant is, I don't understand this. I need more clarity around this. I think this point would go better over here versus over there. And finally, check for continuity errors. Continuity errors might be, you're over here on a Tuesday at the store. You can't be over here at the bank on the same day. So that is we went about 6 minutes today, but I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And I tried to talk super, super fast so that you could stay tuned and not get bored. This was our Writing Tips Tuesday. I hope it was valuable for you again. And we'll see you on the flip side. We'll see you in 2 days on Writing Tips Thursday. Have a great night.